The top story on ABC News Breakfast this morning, the Northern Territory coroner will hand down her findings today into the death of baby Azaria Chamberlain.
The Sydney Morning Herald's Malcolm Brown has been covering the case since day one in 1980. He's flown to Darwin for the fourth coroner's verdict and he joins us now from outside the court. Malcolm Brown, good morning to you. What are you expecting the coroner to announce at 10:30?
Well, I imagine that the coroner will go along with her counsel assisting, who made the submission earlier this year that a dingo took the baby. It's most unusual for a coroner to go against the recommendations of the counsel assisting, but it is not unknown. However, the evidence from the public point of view points strongly now to a dingo attack, and I think that will be a finding.
And if that is the case, Malcolm, this case is really going to go full circle because, of course, the first coronial inquest headed up by Dennis Barrett came to the very same conclusion.
It did indeed, and the evidence upon which he made his decision has remained intact over the last 30 years. That is, that there were dingo paw prints leading into the tent. There were dingo hairs found. There was a growl heard by a couple of independent campers from Western Australia. There was a drag mark in the sand. There was a point where the body had apparently been rested by the dingo before it took it up. Now, that has remained intact. And now that the forensic science that the Crown drew upon has been discredited, virtually totally discredited, the only thing that remains is the evidence of the dingo attack, and I can't imagine that a coroner would go any other way now.
And of course the big question that has also been posed about, always been posed about this case, is that why that evidence from the first inquest seemed to get lost in the rush that resulted in Lindy Chamberlain getting that life sentence in prison for murder at a subsequent hearing.
Well, it was overridden by the findings that preceded the second inquest. That is, that the baby's blood apparently was through the car and on the Chamberlain's possessions, including a pair of scissors. That was then analysed by a forensic biologist, Joy Curl, who not only confirmed it was blood, but found fetal haemoglobin in it on her claim. That, had it been true, there certainly would have been a case to answer. But it was not true, but that was only discovered well after the trial and the conviction.
Now, Malcolm, you have long been supportive of Lindy Chamberlain's case in the top end, a position that's got you into a bit of trouble there over the years, hasn't it?
Well, it did, yes. I came into great disfavour with the Northern Territory Police and the Justice Administration, who were very anxious to preserve this system and to say this is a properly organised system of justice. We're not going to be dictated to by the mob, which is perfectly legitimate stand to take. They dug in and they entrenched themselves when the opposition kept on coming from the south. Eventually, when I kept on stirring the pot, there were threats from the Northern Territory Police that I was going to be bashed. Nothing, I might add, ever happened, but I was certainly apprehensive.
And we're getting lots of comments, undoubtedly, Malcolm, from our viewers this morning. It is a case that still polarises people nearly 32 years on, but a common thread is the claim that a lot of people see it as trial by media. Do you think the media has a lot to answer for in the way it's covered the trial, the case of the Chamberlains over all these years?
I think the media does, but there were always the ingredients of a very sensational story. It was an exotic location, it was a setting that Agatha Christie might have chosen, it was a beautiful young mother, it was a largely understood religion, there were suggestions of infanticide, suggestions of sacrifice in the wilderness, and the Chamberlains' behaviour in the immediate aftermath of this disaster did not do them any credit. So, to an extent, the ingredients of a story were there, and the media just added fan to the flame. So I think that the media has got something to answer for, but not totally. It wasn't fabricated, sensational aspects that they were there in the first place.
And Malcolm Brown, if the coroner Elizabeth Morris does come down in favour of the dingo taking Azaria, do you realistically think, though, this will be the end of this saga?
Well, it certainly will be, unless some extraordinary evidence comes up in the future, but that is highly unlikely. If it does, well, of course, the inquest finding can be quashed and another inquest can be held. But I would say that if the coroner does come down with a finding that dingo took the baby, that will be it, and people will be no longer able to say legitimately, I still think she did it, because if they do that, they are technically at least open to action for defamation.
OK, Malcolm Brown, who's done some tremendous work covering this case from the get-go, joining us in Darwin. Thank you, Malcolm, for your time.
Thanks very much.